Americans, stand up and be counted in the fight against communism. You as a private citizen can strike back at communism. Where? In Eastern Europe, where 80 million people still bravely resist communist brainwashing. How? Through Radio Free Europe. RFE's daily broadcasts reach these 80 millions, keeping alive their belief in the free world.
All right, and you're tuned into Radio Free America. I think we need to have somebody broadcasting freedom into America and the alternative news, because they're shutting down social media left and right. And so we are Radio Free America, also known as Infowars.com. YouTube is now deleting comments with two phrases that insult China's Communist Party. What are the two phrases? Is it Winnie the Pooh? No, that's not in there. They were censoring people who put up Winnie the Pooh because they made fun of President Xi being kind of short and fat, and Barack Obama being tall and thin. So they showed the picture of them next to each other and then put a picture of Winnie the Pooh and Tigger. And he did not like being referred to as Winnie the Pooh. But no, the two phrases are communist bandit. Well, they don't like communist bandit. Or 50-cent party. If you put up those two phrases, YouTube automatically deletes that in 15 seconds, even though you can put up the phrases in English, communist bandit or 50-cent party, and they are not. So they're doing this strictly for their communist audience. If you put it up in Chinese characters, those two phrases, it gets taken down in 15 seconds. And these are comments, even if the comments are praising the 50-cent party or whatever, right? It still gets taken down. This is by the way, the communist bandit is an insult that goes back to Taiwan, the Chinese nationalist government, calling Mao and his other people communist bandits. I think that's pretty mild, quite frankly. They're murdering communist bandits, killed 80 million of their own people, in a kind of similar reaction of what's being done by governments around the world, including our own right now. The other term, 50-cent party, is a derogatory slang term talking about people who act as censors, or not as censors, but who put on fake comments for the Chinese Communist Party, alleging that they get paid 50 cents for each comment that they put up. But what's really amazing about this is the fact that YouTube is not available in China because the Great Firewall of China. They've shut this down. So why is YouTube kowtowing to China to this extent? Well, you know why. They want to get in there. They want to ingratiate themselves with China. Since the first coronavirus cases were confirmed in the U.S., Alphabet's YouTube has been repeatedly criticized for deleting popular videos questioning the wisdom of lockdowns, reports Zero Hedge. Fauci, if you question Fauci, you get censored for that on YouTube, or just simply using the outbreak as an excuse to censor more conservative content. YouTube insists that it doesn't delete conservative content, or even, liberals who disagree with the liberal orthodoxy about climate change, like Michael Moore. No. Oh, they have their other reasons, right? And they said on Zero Hedge, even though we've had a handful of congressional hearings, that congressional hearing that they had right after InfoWars is purged. Alex went there. Marco Rubio claimed he didn't know who Alex was. Then he admitted later he was lying. They wanted to talk to conservatives who had been purged, and they didn't talk to the conservatives who were purged. President Trump had a garden party where he's going to talk about social media censorship, except the people who were there hadn't been censored. And you had people like the Heritage Foundation, the biggest conservative think tank, the conservative think tank that was saying they can censor anybody they want. It's private property. We like that. We don't like the Bill of Rights getting in the way of our corporate profits because we're conservatives. Trump is reportedly looking into the creation of a panel to combat censorship of conservatives on these popular platforms. Well, it's gone beyond that now. He's saying they're going to clean up their act or we're going to close them down. We'll talk about that in just a moment. YouTube, however, is apparently censoring these two phrases, and even if they're positive, and it's really strange, as I pointed out, because they are not even allowed in China because of the firewall. But I imagine that they know, first of all, that people are going to be able to get around that firewall to some extent. And, of course, Google wants to ingratiate themselves with China so they can get back in. Let's talk about censorship because, that's one of these things that kind of You know, what goes around comes around. If you don't stand up for free speech, if you say as a candidate, there are going to be people who say that we shouldn't allow, you know, you call for Bill Gates to fix the internet for you, to censor the people that you don't like. And then you say President Trump, candidate Trump at the time, said there are going to be people out there who say we have the First Amendment. We have the First Amendment. These are foolish people saying stuff like that. And then when the First Amendment is eradicated by people like Bill Gates, President Trump does nothing. Does nothing. 2 years ago that happened. Does nothing. And now it's starting to happen to him. Said that at the time, didn't we? It's starting to happen to liberals as well. Michael Moore just got purged off of YouTube. Let's take a look at where we're headed with this. As a matter of fact, if you like your corporate masters controlling your speech and controlling your news, like Bill Gates does with NewsGuard, right? Funded by DARPA, the military-industrial complex, through Microsoft. We'll give you that little check mark, and if you don't get the check mark, you know, you're fake news. And, you know, not going to be carried by any of the news organizations. Not going to be, they're going to push back against you, as I've had people show me clips of what my news articles look like if they happen to run the NewsGuard on Microsoft's browser, or the one that Google has now put on Chrome. Oh, don't believe anything this guy says, I say, right? Believe everything that CNN tells you, or the Washington Post and the New York Times, but don't believe anything David Knight says, categorically. And they're doing the same thing with Election Guard. They're going to let them count the votes and maintain the integrity of the election when they do it electronically, and that is coming very quickly. It may happen this time. And it's not just Microsoft. It's not just Google. Take a look at Amazon. Let's play this clip, video clip number 5. 10 local TV stations push the same Amazon scripted segment. Let's roll that.
Millions of Americans staying at home are relying on Amazon.
Millions of Americans staying at home are relying on Amazon.
Millions of Americans staying at home are relying on Amazon.
Millions of Americans staying at home are relying on Amazon.
Amazon has transformed its operations in response to COVID-19 to protect employees and keep packages flowing.
Amazon has transformed its operations in response to COVID-19 to protect employees and keep packages flowing.
The company is keeping its employees safe and healthy while still delivering those packages to your doorstep.
The company is keeping employees safe and healthy.
The company is keeping its employees safe and healthy.
The company is keeping its employees safe and healthy.
The company is keeping its employees safe and healthy.
The company is keeping its employees safe and healthy.
The company is keeping its employees safe and healthy.
The company is keeping
you get
its
the
employees
idea.
safe and healthy.
Yeah, these are 10 different stations.
On
you have 3 of them ran that segment twice. One of them ran it 3 times, Palm Springs in California. When they were contacted, one of the news directors said, for NBC, and these are ABC, CBS, NBC affiliates, so it's the big 3, right? The NBC affiliate that they contacted, one of them, said, I was not aware that the package was provided by Amazon. See, they don't just ship packages in the boxes. They ship news packages, too. Where did he think these packages would come from? I mean, where does he normally get his package news from? The CIA? Bill Gates? Where does he get that stuff from? All right, you heard that clip that had been produced by Amazon. They scripted it. I thought it was interesting that it was called a package. I've never heard that. We don't do teleprompter news here. But they do. And it was exactly the same, the scripted package. But they voiced it. You know, they sent them the script. They sent them the B-roll. They did the voiceovers at each of these stations. And one guy said, well, yeah, I didn't know that was being provided by Amazon. Well, who did he think it was coming from? Who do they normally get their news from? And we've talked many times about Operation Mockingbird, where the CIA would supply the news to people. As a matter of fact, you know, there wasn't much interest in this. I was really surprised. When Ed Snowden came out with his book, I bought it in the afternoon. I stayed up all night reading it and taking notes and doing a book report the next day. It wasn't a dry book report, I hope, but I thought there was some pretty earth-shattering stuff in it. Nobody cared. Nobody wanted to watch it. I mean, you can still find it on my channel at band.video, but you have to go way, way back. By the way, when we talk about the Wayback Machine, that's now getting censored as well by the tech organizations. I've used that many times. When somebody would go back in, a corporation like Uber would do something really disgusting, to get called out on it, they would go back and remove the page. I would go back with the Wayback Machine and find it, save it. I reported on that in the past, but now they're purging the Wayback Machine. But, you know, because when you got to flush stuff down the memory hole, it's pretty bad when you got somebody that is resurrecting this old stuff, you know, the Wayback Machine. So that's a shame that's happening. But, you know, when we take a look at the history of this stuff, and we've talked so many times about the CIA pushing out narratives, and they do it not just for the news, but they also do it for Hollywood, all right? I had a friend who worked at the Pentagon that I'd known from high school. He went through West Point, went to work at the Pentagon. When I went to visit him in Washington, he was telling me what he did, and what he did was, if movie companies wanted to use hardware from the military, they would bring their scripts in. Of course, if the military liked it, they'd say, okay, we'll let you use some tanks and planes and ships or whatever. But if they didn't like your script, if it was going to criticize them or their policies, no, you didn't get it. So what do you think that had the result of doing? Well, it had the result of getting friendly movies for the Pentagon. CIA was a little bit more obvious about it, however. They would actually work with writers. They had a lot of, they would help you with the scripts. They would give you more interesting details and stuff to put in your scripts. As a matter of fact, you could go to the CIA, to their website and request it, and they would give you some scenarios and scripts that they had pre-written, you know, kind of like they do for the news, Operation Mockingbird. And they do that for Hollywood as well. And now, of course, China is doing that as well. That's the way this all operates. But the reason this was happening with Amazon was because Amazon, according to media reports, they sent this out because they had a lot of employees who went on strike. They were complaining about how hard they were having to work because of the increased demand, everybody buying things online. So a lot of very harsh working conditions like they would typically do during the holidays, and they felt like they needed more protection and better pay. So in response to this, Amazon puts together this package and sends it out to ABC, CBS, NBC affiliates across the country, and they just comply, and they put it out the same way they do for the military, the same way they do for the CIA, and the same way they do for the political parties, depending on which network they are. Typically, it's for the Democrats. But you know, Fox News does that for the Republicans. As one person said, it's absolutely amazing that they would do this without labeling this as sponsored content. Yeah, it's even worse than that. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
We're living in insanely dangerous times, and I told folks going back 3 months ago, I'm not buying storable food because I'm worried about the COVID-19 virus. I'm worried about the food shortages and the economic collapse. And now it's admitted that a chain reaction has begun that's already caused food shortages and the collapse of farms and ranches across the United States, and it's even worse in the third world. So I hope Trump, with his initiatives, can clean this up and fix it. But with the election fraud and the COVID-19, all the wars and the third world collapsing and everything else that's going on, now is the time to get storable foods because they'll last for 25 years. They're in easily toteable bags. It's high quality food, and it's good to have that box checked off to be ready. And it funds the InfoWars. So we have storable food available again. InfoWarsStore.com, or call toll-free 888-253-3139. But whatever you do, get prepared and get ready because the globalists want you dependent on them. They do not want you to be self-sufficient. Get your storable food at InfoWarsStore.com right now while you still can.